Are you just getting into manga? Watching hundreds of creators make manga hauls and want to know how they know what to pick? Are you unsure of where to buy manga? Especially if all the creators you recommend don't live in the same country as you? Well, that's why I'm here. Hello everybody, my name is Brooklyn, otherwise known as the Dramatica Otaku, and if you couldn't tell by my accent, I'm Australian. I'm also a avid manga collector, and over the last 2 years I have been rapidly expanding my manga collection. And today, hopefully, I will be helping you, whether you be a baby manga collector or be a professional but just want to know some more new places where you can buy manga. Hopefully this video will give you some kind of a helping hand. Today I'll be exploring not only the methods for the buying of manga for the manga babies out there, but also where in Australia you can buy manga. Obviously, mainly just in Melbourne. I am a Melbournian, but I will be branching out a little bit. I'll be talking about Australian websites where you can buy manga on for the Australians out there. I am sticking to my forte and my expertise, with that being I'm Australian. Though, if you are from the US, don't worry, I have included some websites for you guys because you may want to look for other places other than like Barnes and Noble, whatever that place is. On screen now should be the timestamps for this video, as I have several different sections, from the methods of manga collecting to my in-store suggestions for Melburnians or Australians who want to visit Melbourne for buying nerd stuff, as well as the online section, and I'm doing a section based on budgeting for manga collectors, good websites to visit when you're budgeting for manga collectors. Yeah. Let's just get into it. Step 1 to collecting manga is reading manga online. Now this might be a bit of a polarizing subject, but from personal experience, I found that reading manga online can be a double-edged sword of sorts, because sometimes the fan translations are really difficult to read, sometimes they're just incredibly different in context, but also you get to read fan content as well as web published content that you don't necessarily get to see in the mangas. For example, Ouran High School Host Club has a really good epilogue scene, I guess, where this screenshot comes from. That's Honey Senpai. You know, this character here. I've only ever seen that in web versions of the final volume of Ouran High School Host Club, which I initially read online. It's not in volume 18 of this manga that I have right here. Now, I suggest this as a viable starting point, not only so you can gauge what kind of manga you want, but it can also be a good sort of jumping off point to see, hey, I want to collect this series or this series, and you're just starting off with the digital versions. You can obviously read the digital version and then buy the manga. I'm doing that with Kaguya-sama Love as well. I've been reading the digital version and then buying the manga until I started just collecting the manga up to date, so I've stopped reading the digital version. And even if it's just looking at the aesthetics of a manga that you may want to read, looking online and doing your research, that's what this point is. It's not just reading stuff online, it is doing research into manga that you may want to read. For example, obviously, I started with Ouran High School Host Club. From there, I was given suggestions by friends. I was looking at romance manga online. I went to Tumblr, I went to DeviantArt, I went to Instagram, I went to YouTube. So look online, do research for manga that you may want to read, manga that may be suggested to you. For example, I have recently been watching a lot of MangaTube recently, which is why I'm making this video specifically, and with me watching manga YouTube, I've been trying to look for more suggestions for manga that I may want to read, and I did get a really good one. This is My Love Mix-Up. I'm not going to go too into it, but I read this, I love it, and it's a really good suggestion that I got from online, from a YouTube video. But summary of this point, do some research online for types of manga that you may be interested in. Obviously the best way to gauge what you're interested in is probably to pick what anime series you like and then read the manga to those. But looking online for similar manga that you may want to read is also a really good option. Point being, do your research. 2. Make a list of the manga that you want to buy. Was it a recommendation? Was it a book that you read online? Is it the manga to your favorite anime? Write this down on a list, and I would suggest writing multiple so that when you go out manga hunting or go online manga hunting, you know what you are looking for. Also, in this section, you should definitely research if the series that you are looking at is still ongoing, how many volumes that there are, just in case you need to budget what you need for this little shopping trip you're doing. Obviously, when you're actually there, don't be afraid to let your eyes wander. I mean, I don't know how you shop, but looking at the suggested tab when you're shopping is always fun. I've spent too much money because of that. This is why I need a budget. 3. Locate your preferred websites and or in-store locations. Obviously you'll be buying manga from these places. I will be helping you with this one specifically the Melbournians, but I will be helping you on this point later in this video. But please locate some places where you want to buy manga, because I do think going in store, physically flipping through some manga and just looking at the art is a very good experience to have. Just straight up buying it online is just like, well, you're just looking at the cover at that point. So I would highly suggest, if you are able to, find a place where you can go in, walk in, pick up a physical book and just have a little look at it. Option 3.5 is look at your 1 or 2 locations, or maybe the website that you're looking at, and compare prices. I only say that because I am poor and buying manga is a very expensive hobby, which leads me on to number 4, which is create a budget. This may not be important for some of you, but it's definitely important for someone like me who needs to budget this sort of stuff because they can't afford it. You're probably expecting this to come before actually visiting the store. Well, no. Sometimes it's better to actually go into the store before deciding what you're buying and thinking of the budget on the fly. Now, that's not for everyone. For me, that's how I work. I need to go in, physically see what manga I want, then decide, okay, well, I only want to spend $30 today, so I can only get 2 manga or 1 manga. So what will that one be? That was what I was trying to get at with this sort of point, and why it's after actually visiting the store. I was also thinking for those who are chronically online and look at the manga, obviously, and check the price before actually buying the manga and going in store. Yeah, that's why this point is later than actually visiting the store. Okay, let's continue. Now, obviously, I don't know how you shop, as I said before, but make sure you have just a budget or a spending limit that you have for buying manga. Because I know I've broken a spending limit once or twice. I did it today. But making sure that you have strict spending limits so that whether you want to strictly buy a series or let your eyes wander and peruse, you know how much money you will be spending. This is mainly a point for people who are like me and cannot afford to buy manga all that often, and when they do, they go jack shit crazy. And obviously, step 5 is buy yourself some manga. See, I've laid out all the groundwork very poorly, and now it's time for you to buy some manga. But of course, for that, we're gonna need to go to step 3 again. I'm gonna have to show you what stores you could possibly want. Hello. I spent a total of an hour, a whole hour, consisting of multiple recordings going through the bookstores in Melbourne that I recommend. That is too much for this one video, especially since it's central to Melbourne. So, just for the Melbournians, stores in Melbourne that you can and probably should visit. First of all, the chain ones, obviously, QBD and Dimmicks. Highly suggest going to both QBD and Dimmicks because QBD will have manga that Dimmicks doesn't have, and Dimmicks will have manga that QBD doesn't have, and if there's a volume that Dimmicks doesn't have, it will also be in QBD because they carry a lot of the same series, but also the opposing series at the same time. Those are cheap chain stores. If you want to go to those, they're probably your best option if you're buying on a budget. The specialty stores, where you will definitely get the most bang for your buck, whether it is anime products, manga, soundtracks, surprisingly as well, you definitely want to go to Minnesota Comics, All Star Comics, or Critical Hit. Now, Critical Hit is the caveat. Critical Hit has a very, very, very limited stock on manga. It is always the most popular shonen titles. I did suggest it because I got the last two Demon Slayer volumes at Critical Hit, and that is because they're the only store that had the last two volumes first. However, they are predominantly a product store, as in they have mostly anime figures, anime plushies, anime mystery bags, or mystery like pins and stuff like that. They also surprisingly have soundtracks, and it's not just anime, it's also gaming, it's also pop culture. That's the stuff with Critical Hit. Last one is also a chain store, but is more of a very, very small chain store compared to QBD and Dimmicks. It is Robertson's Bookshop. It is very quaint. It has that bookshop cafe aesthetic, or at least the one that I went to does. I would highly recommend it if you want that. It also has learning books for if you're learning Japanese, which I cannot find in chain stores such as QBD and Dimmicks. So I highly recommend it if you're looking for more than just manga and are looking for that coffee shop aesthetic. Now, that has been my recommendations. There will be a 23-minute video, or just over 23, maybe 24-minute video on Friday of me that was supposed to be in this video. That will be a take 2, going through in depth the different manga buying places in Melbourne, an in-depth review of places to buy manga in Melbourne. That has been my review of bookstores you should visit in Melbourne. All the Melbourne stores I talked about have an online store too. Dimmicks has a very user-friendly website, followed by QBD, Critical Hit, All Star Comics, and then Minotaur. Now, that's not to say Minotaur is anywhere in the ballpark of any of these other online stores. Minotaur's is by far the worst. It is a far better experience to actually physically go in to Minotaur Comics than visit the website. I know, I have tried multiple times to maneuver around their website, and it is so fucking difficult. So if you want to go to Minotaur, actually physically go into Minotaur, because you are far more likely to actually find the little gems in stock that they have, because they may not register it onto their website. That being said, we're going to be talking about some Aussie stores that you can easily access online, and for some of these places you can also visit a in-store place. Speaking of places that you can actually physically go into, is Kinokuniya in Sydney, a bookstore in Sydney that sells manga and other books in Japanese as well as in English. Great for if you are learning Japanese and want to learn via manga. They also have the Genki books, which better because Dimmicks doesn't, and I can't find it anywhere for the same price that Kinokuniya does. If you live in Australia, Kinokuniya ships Australia-wide. However, it is more on the pricey side than I would like for my manga. Unless, of course, you live in Sydney and then can just walk into the fucking store. It's definitely an advantage for those who want to learn Japanese and other Asian languages and get more media straight from Japan. It has come to my attention that like many of the fucking stores in Sydney, Kinokuniya is actually a chain in places such as the US, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Dubai, Thailand, and so on and so forth. Yet the only location in the massive fucking country of Australia is in Sydney. Not a physical place you can really go to, but a Australia-specific place is mangabooks.com.au, a subsidiary of QBD, so you can technically go to these places, but it is a website that is solely based on manga. It is not awfully extensive in its collection of books and seems to be only stock from QBD itself. On the positive, it is ordered by series rather than by volume, which makes it very easy to access specific volumes of manga that you want and not have a random amount of volumes of manga that you didn't really care to look at being shoved in your face. Manga Mate. So this is a fully online website. Manga Mate is an Australian manga selling website that is unique and has a far more unique collection than other sellers. This website sells worldwide, but is central to Australia, meaning no insane shipping prices. Yes! Literally, I went onto this website when researching and put a couple of books into my cart, went to check out, and literally the prices for shipping was the same as if I was buying from like something from my local JB Hi-Fi and getting it shipped to my house. Same price. So that's fucking awesome. And before you say anything, I am not sponsored, and I'm not kidding. If they would like to sponsor me, I would highly enjoy that, yes. Again, it is on the slightly more expensive side, but because they're selling more diverse titles, I think it's worth it, definitely. They actually have Again in stock on their website, so that makes me really happy. Yeah, there are over 5,000 titles, and I would highly recommend Manga Mate. Buying on a budget. Manga buying limbo. So just before this section, I am going to be doing the pros and cons of buying from the websites that I'm about to list before you. Booktopia. Pros, gives you access to manga that you do not see in Dimmix. Slightly cheaper alternative. Cons, longer wait times. I bought a manga at the same time I bought half of the manga I bought in my January manga review video. It's not being shipped until April. They've pushed it back twice. So when I say longer wait times, I mean it. Booktopia also has some erratic pricing on some of the volumes of manga that they have. Next is Amazon. Cons, erratic prices, doesn't give you exact products. It's Amazon. I hate it. The Book Depository. British Booktopia. Pros, more consistent prices with some titles that Booktopia just doesn't have. In the same spectrum, there are more titles that Booktopia has that Book Depository doesn't. It's very similar to the QBD and Dimmix thing, where there will be some things that Dimmix has that QBD doesn't, and you can go between the two and buy as much manga as you want. That's kind of what I would suggest with Booktopia and Book Depository. Another downside for Booktopia is if you live outside of Australia and New Zealand, unfortunately you cannot buy from this website, I don't think. I think Booktopia and Book Depository are a good yin and yang for those who want to buy manga online, and by that I mean only Australians. But don't be persuaded, dear American viewers. Your slice of the pie is coming, and it is literally just the rest of the pie. Now, with the online stores, there is a lot of give and take, and you really need to compare prices per series and sometimes even per book. Now, the thing with QBD, Dimmix, and all the stores I mentioned in the price segments is all their prices are very consistent. All the books will be from either $14 through to $18 unless they're special edition, hardcover, omnibus, or big volumes, or are otherwise different than typical manga. These are consistently between $21 and $60. The same can't be said for Book Depository, Booktopia, and Amazon, however. Now, Booktopia, City-ikson, and the Book Depository sell completely new books, and with City-ikson you can have the option of buying secondhand sometimes. I think Booktopia does that too as well. Here's where things get iffy. These prices for manga can vary wildly, as I mentioned before, especially on Booktopia and Amazon's parts. Book Depository is typically more consistent and is slightly cheaper than Dimix, but for example, if you wanted to buy Natsume's Book of Friends from scratch, as in from volume 1, as there is unfortunately no box set for Natsume's Book of Friends, you'll need to find, and you want to find the cheapest price. Book Depository sells Natsume's Book of Friends for $18.22 consistently, with only slight variations in volume 26 and 27, which are the newest editions. Whereas Booktopia has Natsume's Book of Friends at $13.95, which is a huge deal. Why is volume 1 $19? Why is volume 3 $25? And then there's Amazon's selling options, which are just all over the place. They have a similar price at $13 for the same, but there's just so much variation between volume, and then they're trying to sell you the ebook version, and then there's completely unrelated books as well. This is why I hate Amazon. Sure, they're good for value for the most part, but when you just get consistent prices for a book and then buy them all at $143 for the Japanese version of Natsume's Book of Friends. None. I would rather buy a plane ticket to Japan and hunt for the physical copies themselves. Fuck that. Okay, that was a moot point. But as I was saying, there is a slight give and take with these websites, and in some cases they are cheaper than the likes of Dimix, who, if we refer to our previous example, sells Natsume's Book of Friends for roughly $15 each. Now, Book Depository sells it for more expensive, but Booktopia sells it cheaper. Now, for some people that's not important, but for me, again, I really have to look at how I spend my money on manga under a fucking magnifying glass. That shit's important to me. Next is eBay. Buying manga on eBay is typically pretty good, as you are buying manga that's been taken care of and you are rehoming manga. Doesn't help with the price gouging that goes on eBay. Then there is the fact that you can buy manga from all over the world from eBay. Then comes the shipping prices. The pain of being Australian is that typically if you want to ship something from the US, it will cost between $26 and $56 fucking dollars. Sometimes $250. We will see more of this trend in later parts of the video. Now, I don't really need to explain eBay to you, nor my next one, which is Facebook Marketplace. Personally, I really don't like Facebook Marketplace because, well, it's got very similar things going on to eBay. The good side is it is a more local community, so you get to talk to people who genuinely have the same interests as you around you. For example, I only really find Facebook listings from in Australia, so, but the thing is with Facebook Marketplace is you have to message the person. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am not the type to like to be in strangers' DMs asking questions. So it's a big no for me from Facebook Marketplace, though the prices are very reasonable and you are getting a local experience, essentially. Now, lastly, when it comes to buying cheap manga from a cheap website, I would like to mention the American store of Albury. So I found this website through a manga haul by an American creator, and I'd never heard of the website, so I decided to check them out. It's an American site, but they ship to Australia and even convert the price to AUD. And it turns out they're pretty good on deals. For example, I really, as I've mentioned before, wanted the full series of Again. And on every other site, it's at least $200 to get the complete series. since Albury gives you the options to buy second-hand books and highly recommends that you do it, you can get the manga that you want for cheap. And pre-shipping, I can get 10 volumes of manga for $85, which is new for me. Again, I work in AUD. Almost all the manga is like $15 to $20 for myself, so this is a new experience. This website is so awesome. So let's just check out, and I'd rather pay full price $200 worth of books than pay that much for fucking shipping. Yes, unfortunately, because I live in Australia, and as I mentioned, the shipping costs to Australia are not fun. Shipping is disgustingly expensive. This is a $2 book, but I have to pay $25 shipping. Even more so when you're buying from multiple places in the US, which, if you're trying to get the best value for money on manga, you do. So unless you are able to get all the manga from one place, it's not worth buying from this place. If you are Australian, if you're American, go for it. And before anybody mentions the fucking free shipping sticker in the top right left corner, that's only for the US. That is not applied to Australia at all. To be honest with you guys, I kept running into this specific issue of me wanting to buy from places that were American, and then it fucking me over. Initially doing my research for books on a budget, I kept running into American only stores, and by that I mean it only ships to the US. So unless you have an American friend, you can't get this manga whatsoever. And I really, really wanted to buy from these places. For example, there is this website called Cheap Manga. It is a very niche store, as it has older manga that you do not typically see at all anymore. For example, the series Momogami plus Senki. I have the 4th volume, and this website sells 3 of the volumes all together for $15. That's $5 a volume. That's a fucking steal. This cost $15. Three manga for $15. Absolute fucking steal. They don't ship outside the US. If someone can send me these, I would appreciate you so much. Then is Books A Million. Now, I was really gonna put this into my full purchasing list along with Manga Mate and manga.com.au because I'd never heard of Books A Million before. When thinking about buying on a budget, it seemed pretty good. All of the books were just slightly cheaper than books from like Dimmicks. It's cause it was in USD, cause it doesn't ship outside the US. So for all I know, these could be the average prices in the US. Velour books. Okay, so this one is very similar to eBay and Facebook, whereas a book trading service. It is also similar to Albury in that sense, where you're getting secondhand books from people. However, it is not dedicated to manga. It is actually a textbook selling service, but people have used it to sell their manga. I don't know how much I trust this website, just because it feels very similar to Facebook and eBay. To the strengths of this website, it is very, very similar to Albury, as in they will give you the cheapest prices first, and yeah, you get to buy from a long list of places. So yeah, they also give you a quality grade on how the book is supposed to be, from good to excellent or fair to excellent or something like that. That I really, really like about this website. It is very similar to Albury, but it's just a bit sketch to me, not gonna lie. And I know this last section of my video has been very iffy and has lost essentially all realms of vouchability, but that's because these sort of websites are out of my reach, so I cannot buy from them. I cannot have them shipped to Australia without insane shipping prices with money that I just don't have. But yes, that is the end of my video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Again, there is like 1 or 2 American stores that I did miss in the end part of the video. I had looked into them before I hit that wall of just seeing American stores, and I just didn't note them down. Again, I am Australian, therefore I have a broader experience with Australian websites and Australian stores, and I wanted to make this video for Australian weebs who have a very similar disconnect to what I have, in which they watch manga hauls, and it's just people going to Barnes and Nobles and going to like saying they got all these manga and shit from like Riot Stuff, I think it is, and Aubrey and all this, and you're just sitting here going, I don't know what these places are, and once you go to them you're like, I can't afford to have these shipped to my house. So I wanted to make this video specifically for the Australians with a little hint of American websites because most of my audience is American. But I have just this huge disconnect from most of MangaTube that is very Americanized. So I wanted to make this video for the Australians out there, specifically the Melbournians, and I will try to make the best effort to put more places in Australia where you can go to buy manga. If there is any recommendations from Aussies out there for places to buy manga, please put them in the comments down below and I will pin them. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I've been the Dramatic Otaku. I upload every Wednesday at 10 AM Australian Eastern Standard or daylight, depending on what time of year it is. And I hope to see you next time. Bye!